Cris, we ran this a little earlier, and these guys had a hard time with the fact that Mike D'Antoni seems to think the Warriors are the team under pressure. CC had a different issue. He doesn't think that. What is it?
No. Go ahead.
I love Mike. Mike sounds a lot like the crazy uncle at times.
Yes. Yes.
There's some giddy up in there, you know. You just got beat by what, 41?
41.
Was it? I get what he's trying to say.
Me too.
That if Golden State loses tonight, obviously Houston now has home court advantage. That said, all the pressure, for the most part, not most of the pressure, is clearly on Houston. Let me count the ways. Number one, you had the best record in the regular season, 65 wins. Number two, you the ones that all year been talking about we're the better team.
Yeah,
we were built to beat Golden State. We're obsessed with them. Chris Paul just said we're a special team. You know, number three, James Harden is going to be the MVP, deservedly, but he also has this reputation for failing in the playoffs. And in his last two games, he's averaged 23 points, 40% shooting, 24% from three. Chris Paul, going to be a Hall of Famer. Same negative reputation in the playoffs. 13 points in the last game. Last two games, you totaled 10 assists. You're shooting 36% from the floor.
And 25% from three.
Yes, and like I said, you're coming off a 41-point loss. And let me not forget Mike D'Antoni, the crazy uncle.
Oh, yeah.
Same reputation.
Yes.
Exactly. All three of these guys, if they lose this series, that's what people are going to say. Regular season players, regular season coach.
Well, listen, if they lose this series in a hard-fought 7 games, I don't think people are going to hold it against them that much because of who the Warriors are. But if they lose in 5, see, I've been bringing up this 65-win stat all year. I keyed it for the Rockets. Only 20 teams have ever won that many games. 15 of them won the title. You know how, those 5 that didn't win the title, you know how many of them got knocked out in 4 or 5 games? None. So they would be the first 65-win team to ever, only 5 ever lost a series. Everyone that lost took it at least 6 or 7 games.
So the conference finals.
At any point. It's a lose at any point this quickly. Much like you, I understand what D'Antoni's saying. I also think D'Antoni knows Harden and Paul's postseason struggles and is saying to the media what he is saying to them. What he is, to quote our friend LeVar Ball's, trying to speak it into existence, trying to make the guys, pressure ain't on you.
Yeah.
Go out and play your ball. Because I think he knows what a lot of us know, which is those two guys, as great as they are not at their best in the highest pressure situations. Some guys are historically. Some guys do rise to the pressure occasion. I haven't seen that from Harden and Chris Paul. So I think he's trying to convince them, guys, well, if we win this game, like, they're the ones that got to defend their home court.
Now, Chris, me and you from Ohio. We ain't about all that mess, okay? We know that what he said was stupid. All right? Now, you're trying to convince 2 superstars, hey, I'm getting ready to do a shell game on it. All right? I'm going to tell the media that, you know something? The pressure's on them. And they going to believe me. When Harden, he knows his numbers. Chris Paul, Chris Paul missed a wide open layup. Don't tell me he's not feeling this pressure already. This is a coach who hasn't won on a high level, and as you can see, as the stakes get higher, you can see him making mistakes. That's a mistake for him to say that. So I'm not going to go on TV and make a mistake that I know as an athlete that know he's lying. Because as athletes, the one thing the coaches tell us, I'm not going to waste your time, and I'm not going to lie to you. He's not being honest when he says that.
No, that's a great point. And it is tough. You mentioned Chris Paul. It's tough to see him struggle like this.
Man.
Because, I mean, he is one of the all-time great point guards. You know, and Isaiah Thomas once told me he thought he was better than he was.
The original Isaiah Thomas.
The original Isaiah Thomas. Now, Isaiah doesn't think that now, but at one point Isaiah thought that. And to see him struggle time and time again. Now, he's had good moments, too, in the playoffs. But to see him struggle the way he has, it's it's really sad.
Listen, Chris Paul's got, if you care about the stat box score plus minus, the history of the NBA playoffs is LeBron 1, Jordan 2, Chris Paul 3. So he's obviously had some great playoff moments. He led a New Orleans team close to a conference finals.
That might have been his best.
That might have been his best playoff run. With his second best player is David West, who now obviously is on the Warriors. He hit a bank shot to beat the Spurs in a Game 7 of Round 1. It's a lot of pressure there. But he has been bad these last 2 games.
Well, and it's been the clutch moment. Like you said, he's been great. That Utah series last year where the Clippers lost in 7, he was great for the first 6 games. It was Game 7 where he struggled. OKC, it was the last 45 seconds of the Game 5 a few years ago. Let me say this, too, why the pressure is not on Golden State. Number one, they've been down. If they go back and don't have home court advantage, they know they can win in Houston. They did it in Game 1. And Houston knows they can win there. Number two, they've been down. They were down 3-1 to OKC after winning 73 games and playing one of those games in Oklahoma against probably a more talented team than this Rockets team, as good as this Rockets team is. So they are, I would say, they'd be immune to pressure, certainly at this stage against the Rockets.
Getting back to Chris Paul for a second, you made a comment yesterday which was very interesting in that you've seen different Houston Rockets offenses throughout this postseason so far, or especially in this series. They can't seem to figure out exactly who they are and how they want to play, whether it's iso ball or not, and maybe Chris Paul is feeding into that. How do they get themselves back into the series? What do you expect to see from them? Which is the offense you expect to see?
I mean, D'Antoni has said it's not that they changed the offense because they still ran tons of iso.
Yeah. What were they going to
I thought
emphasize?
they had more ball or more player movement away from the ball, and that got the ball moving. Harden they weren't as James Harden-centric in Game 2, and Chris Paul had the ball in his hands and was able to go iso as well. So they just got to share the basketball.
Got to share the basketball, and they got to go earlier in the shot clock. That was the biggest difference when they've played positive and when they've kind of had the Warriors' number. When they let it get within the last 5 seconds of the shot clock is where we've seen them struggle.
And I just want to focus on, I understand that Game 3 was the worst offensive game they played all year. But in the first half, I thought they played great defense, and I thought their offense, they missed 12 they missed 12 layups or dunks. In the second half, what was so disheartening was, okay, listen, your offense is not coming along today. And they just let go of the rope entirely defensively. I have faith that this Rockets offense will find its level. I have faith the threes are going to go in. I don't know if I still have faith they can play the type of you have to play 46, not 48, but 46 minutes of locked-in defense. Damn near close to the full game of locked-in defense to have a chance against this Golden State team. They played about 26 minutes of locked-in defense in the first.
Even if Houston was to win this game, this is what I don't believe, and the coach tells me this in his interview. They don't believe they're better than Golden State. Golden State all year, Draymond and them, they said, man, we got rings. Yeah. We're not. Golden State has that edge that they believe they're better than Houston. And I believe that's that overall belief, game in and game out, I believe is monumental.
Well, just, Chris, I want to ask your opinion on how you think the Warriors are going to bounce and how they'll fare if Andre Iguodala, who's listed as doubtful for tonight, ends up not playing.
Well, look, it hurts him. I mean, obviously you can't play the Hampton 5. He's a guy that can guard James Harden. You can switch everything when he's in there. But they've been in this series, especially the big four, Hampton 4, whatever they call themselves.
With Looney instead of Iguodala.
With Kevon Looney, they've been better than they have with Iguodala. They're plus 13 with Looney with their big 4 and only plus 3 when Iguodala's in there. So, I think they'll be fine. Their depth is critical.
Yes.
So that puts a dent in their depth. It's a advantage for Houston, but I think they'll be able to.
And their wing depth is where this team is built in an odd way, in that they a lot of times don't play a center, and they carry 6 centers. Now, part of the reason they don't have as much wing depth is because of the scary injury Patty McCaw suffered at the end of the regular season. But if Iguodala is not in, and let's say they start Kevon Looney, right? Yeah. Then here are the wings you're going to have coming off the bench. Swaggy P, Livingston, and Quinn Cook, and they don't want Quinn Cook to have to play. Like, you only have 2 guys that play on the perimeter that you feel like you can put into the game. Iguodala, he's obviously the 5th most important Warrior. Like, he's not in the top 4, but it would be It does give the Rockets another slight path to victory.
And he's had problems with his knees before.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a banged knee, so I wonder.
It's up under the knee.
The key for them is they just better hope it's just tonight if he misses,
All right, Cris, stick around. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.